families, especially white families, but some POC families who are homeowners as well, are going to have a different relationship to property than the one that we currently have.
And in a 2018 post, she wrote, "Seize private property."
Up next, we're going to check in with the new mayor of New York City, Zohran Mamdani, the far-left radical who won big in the mayoral election and is riding a tide of momentum and a wave of popularity into the mayoral mansion in New York City. That you'd think, right, that he'd be giving that up for the homeless and instead living in his rent-stabilized apartment in true communist fashion, spirit, man of the people. He has yet to do that. Shock face. He instead is putting together his team, right? Similar to how a president takes office and starts staffing an administration to run the federal government, well, when a new mayor is elected, they staff the city government to run their administration. And the Mamdani administration, he ran, as a radical leftist, Marxist, socialist Democrat, but he is bringing in some more sensible heads, some more serious people, and kind of toning down the extremism of it. And he's staffing the city to be run by serious people. Just kidding. You knew that was a lie, didn't you? Because you're smart. You knew I was gaslighting you there. He is very much doing the opposite. And he just appointed somebody to a top housing position that is so comically extreme, so bizarrely woke and radical, that you would almost think she has to be parody. She can't be a real human being, but she is, and she's going to be an important part of Mamdani's team. Let's listen to Newsweek's reporting about this new appointment from Mamdani.
Zohran Mamdani just hired his top housing advisor, and now her old posts about white supremacy and home ownership are going viral. So who is Sia Weaver? What did she really say, and how does it affect New York housing policy? Let's break it down. Weaver is a longtime tenant organizer in New York and a member of the Democratic Socialists of America. She's led major housing groups like Housing Justice for All and the New York State Tenant Bloc. Mamdani credits her with helping pass the state's 2019 tenant protection law that closed loopholes landlords were using to raise rents and push apartments out of rent stabilization.
So we already know she understands nothing about economics because she's a member of the Democratic Socialists of America, which, by the way, guys, if you ever want to understand like how far left we're talking about, go watch footage from the DSA's conferences or go read their actual party platform. They make Bernie Sanders' presidential campaigns look Republican. They actually do. This is how wacky extremist they are. And then, of course, like her pinnacle act of activism in her career as a tenants' rights activist or what have you is like things that ultimately make the housing market worse and more costly. Rent stabilization benefits a select few who get rent stabilized apartments, but ultimately harms the market, harms the supply of housing, and leads to higher prices for rent for other people. So great stuff. Amazing record that she's coming in on, but at least she doesn't have a history of posting insane stuff on oh, wait, you know where this is going. Let's watch.
Last week, Mamdani named her director of the mayor's office to protect tenants, basically the office that's supposed to go after landlords and improve conditions for renters. But her past posts are resurfacing. In 2019, she wrote that private property, especially home ownership, is, quote, a weapon of white supremacy masquerading as wealth building policy.
Private property and home ownership is a weapon of white supremacy. Sometimes you hear some shit that's so crazy you don't even really know how to break it down or respond to it. And I'm somebody who's seen and heard a lot over the years in politics, so I'm not easily fazed. But that I'm a little taken aback by some of the stuff she said because it's hard to even engage with. Obviously, owning your own home is a key to building wealth and isn't racist. Now, there are racist ways in which housing policy was impacted and designed and enforced historically, Sure, but the concept itself is just a natural extension of your right to pursue a living and your right to own property, which again, I guess open commies like her just don't believe in. But to make it a racist thing is so bizarre and so insane. And in fact, it's very insulting to the countless millions of non-white New Yorkers who aspire to homeownership, and because of, in part, the kind of left-wing, restrictive, anti-market policies that have made housing so expensive in the first place in major urban areas in this country, they can't achieve that goal of homeownership. Well, she's basically saying, well, they're racist, they're self-hating fools who just want to pursue a racist tool of their own oppression. Girl, put down the crack pipe. Okay, you've had enough. And these tweets are from 2019. They're not from 2002. Okay, like this woman was a grown adult, fully formed in her political ideology and activism when she said these things. And there's really no evidence she has renounced them or changed or anything like that. So spare me that.
See. In another old clip, she talked about moving away from treating property as an individual good and toward, quote, shared equity, saying,
families, especially white families, but some POC families who are homeowners as well, are going to have a different relationship to property than the one that we currently have.
And in a 2018 post, she wrote, seize private property. Those clips and posts are being shared by conservative accounts, accusing Mamdani's administration of being extreme or radical.
Oh, I love this media framing. Conservatives are pouncing. Conservatives are seizing on her old posts, painting Mamdani as radical. Or you mean observing reality? Noticing true things? It is funny the spin that gets put on stuff. But no, in fact, it is not like racist to want to own a home, wanting to seize people's private property and telling white people and POC who own homes to get over it is insane. This will, if she gets to implement any of her vision as part of the Mamdani administration, obviously bode terribly for the economy and for the actual supply of housing. She's like, oh, we're going to reimagine private property into public property for equity. Yeah, because that's worked out amazingly in all the places that have embodied these amazing socialistic ideals. Now, I guess the upside is she is unlikely to be able to do that much in just this position. It's not like she's going to be able to just seize all the property from all the landlords in New York City or anything like that. There are major restrictions on how much a mayor can do. And that's why I actually think that while ideologically he's super extreme, the predictions that Mamdani is going to destroy New York City entirely are not going to come true because just actually a mayor can only do so much. Now, what he can do will probably mostly be harmful. And I certainly think it sends a disturbing message that a major Democratic leader, this guy has been embraced by the Democratic Party, not during his campaign, but now that he's won, they are rallying around him. He is sending a message that like this is normal or mainstream or okay in the Democratic Party today to be a communist. And I'm not even saying that as like a pejorative or an insult to this woman. What else could you call her? She's not a, tax and spend liberal who, I support free markets, but I just want us to have a safety net. That's not what we're dealing with here, folks. We are dealing with radical left-wing ideologues and activists who now have control of the financial center of the world and one of the biggest economies of any city in the world and a key part of America, and are now a major figure in one of our two parties. So things are getting extreme. They're getting radical. And Mamdani is sending the message that actually, I'm not really going to moderate. I'm going to bring in the craziest people from my crazy fringe movement, and we're going to try to run a city that way. It's not going to go well for you, babe. And I'm really disturbed by the direction that so much of the Democratic Party is moving in, where this is at all normal or acceptable, because I think in many ways, Republicans are getting more erratic and crazy and extreme. Trump is doing so many things that understandably people could be bothered by or object to. So what you need is a normal alternative. But instead, what we're getting is crazy. Other than that, though, they're doing amazing. Guys, let me know what you think. Are you surprised? Because I could say a lot of things about how I'm feeling about this. I'm not feeling particularly surprised. That's just me, though. Let me know. Are you surprised? Do you somehow support Mamdani? Let me know in the comments. Make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and all of that.